It's Marla Martinson. Welcome to another episode of Conversations with Cupid. I have a really special show today. I am with an amazing woman. Her name is Meg Haworth.
Hi.
Meg Haworth, PH.D. Meg grew up just outside of Washington, D.C., where her scientist mother organically farmed her entire backyard. Her dad was a lover of sweets, though, and filled the kitchen cabinets with Twinkies, donuts, and Fruit Loops. Sounds like my upbringing. Ding Dongs, Fruit Loops, Cap'n Crunch.
Yeah.
You had the best foods and the worst foods, and you said that you kids were constantly sick, running to the doctor's office with yet another infection. By the time Meg was in her early 20s, she had a chronic diagnosis roll in, and then another big twist, which you guys are not going to believe she's going to tell you after she talks about the chronic illness. Stay tuned because you will not believe what happened to her after this. All right, so take it away. Your story is so amazing and what you've done to help other people now. So tell us a little bit how this evolved.
Thanks. Well, the chronic illnesses started really in my 20s. I was in and out of doctors' offices for most of that decade. And by the time I was 27, I had been diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, ulcers. I had chronic muscle spasms in my neck and upper back from scoliosis, a ruptured disc in my neck, migraine headaches, chronic infections like sinus infections, throat infections, leaky gut syndrome, prolapsed hemorrhoids, depression, PTSD from childhood trauma. I mean, it was just like one thing after the next. So I was a bona fide wreck at that point.
And this was starting at what age about?
It started very young, actually, because I was sick a lot. Mm-hmm. It was just sort of like normal to be going to the doctor's office. But, I didn't put anything together until the diagnosis started rolling in. And so by the time I was 27, it was just, I'd had enough. And I thought, okay, I was reading an article in the Washingtonian magazine. That's where I'm from originally. And it was on alternative medicine. Mm-hmm. And it was talking about chiropractic care. And I thought to myself, oh, that would be great for my friend who has a lower back problem. And so then, boom, it clicked in my head that I was so busy thinking about other people and how I could help them that I wasn't really thinking very much about myself and what I could do for me. So a friend of mine raved about chiropractic. I called her that day and asked for a referral. And then my whole life changed after that because I did the most important thing I think any of us can do. And I just took my healing into my own hands.
Mm-hmm. So the chiropractor from there, did he or she then tell you other people to go to holistic healers and things like that? From there, they kind of introduced you to that possibility?
Yes. She sent me to a nutritionist. She sent me to do yoga and meditation, just to learn how to really relax and deal with all of this pain. I was in so much pain. I didn't even realize how much pain I was in until like one day she was pressing on pressure points on my head. Yeah. And I would go, what's that feeling? She said, Meg, that's pain.
Wow.
She said, you're in the kind of pain that would bring the average person to their knees. She said, you're in that pain every single day and you don't know it because it's so normal for you.
And what kind of work were you doing at that time in your 20s?
I did so many different things. I was always trying to do the corporate job, things that I thought would make mom and dad happy, mm-hmm. So I was in the airline industry. I was in the advertising industry. I just worked mostly for major corporations, mm-hmm. Retail, director of marketing for an advertising agency in DC. And at the time when all of this happened, I was a coordinator. I had become a coordinator for a home care nursing agency. So I wanted to go kind of back towards helping people more in social work, psychology realm, which is where I mm-hmm. done a lot of my study. Yeah.
And so then, so then you started getting better. And then
Yeah.
what happened? You got struck?
Yeah, that didn't happen until a year and a half ago. I was struck by lightning.
A year and a
Um,
half ago?
yeah,
You guys, she
yeah.
was struck by lightning. How did this happen?
Yeah, I was on Venice Beach. So that was that big day when there were 13 of us that were struck, and
I
I
didn't hear
was with a
about
friend of
this.
mine.
I didn't hear about
Yeah,
13 people being struck because I'm in LA. Wow.
yeah, yeah. It was July 27, 2014, and it was really a big deal because we just don't really have electrical storms here on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very rarely, and to hear of somebody being struck it's unheard of, and I don't think in the history of Venice Beach it had ever happened.
Mm-hmm. Were you
So
in the water?
anyway,
Where were you? What were you?
no, I was on the wet sand, sitting in the wet sand with a dear friend of mine. We decided to take a walk on the beach that day, and there was a storm way out at sea. There wasn't even rain where we were, but we could, we could see the lightning way out there, and we could see it was raining way out there. It was beautiful. It was so dynamic and lovely, and the dolphins were swimming very near the coastline, and the water was super calm, and we were having this amazing day, just catching up with each other, and we're sitting in the wet sand, and then all of a sudden, out of the corner of my left eye, I see the bolt hit the water's edge about 20 feet from us. And I was looking at my friend to my right, and I watched a plate of white light hit the top of her head, and then these jagged bolts just all around us, sort of like being in one of the static electricity globes. That's what it was like. And the energy just sort of came up and arced over us, smacked us down on our heads because it felt like being hit over the head with a heavy metal object, and then went to people on the beach behind us. You know, in fact, one of our mutual friends happened to be back there playing volleyball. So
And hit
three
her
people.
too? Hit that friend?
Him, yeah,
Him.
yeah,
And so
yeah.
then the ambulance, somebody called an ambulance, and then what? I mean, this is crazy because I've heard of some people being hit by lightning that just took them years to recover.
Yeah, I'm still recovering. It's been quite a journey. I was just emailing my chiropractic neurologist just a few minutes ago, actually, because I have these flare-ups. Sometimes I just don't know, like, what was it? And so anyway, so he's helping me with those things and exercising the brain because my brain was damaged in 3 areas. But yeah, immediately after, well, my friend and I, we realized we had just survived lightning, and we stood up and hugged each other and just started crying, because we were like, we just got struck.
Oh, so it didn't knock you out unconscious?
No.
Wow.
No, it didn't, luckily. And then we were hugging each other and crying, and then we look over and somebody's pulling this man out of the water who's in a wetsuit, this really large man who was probably in his mid-50s, and he was lifeless. And so we just started running towards the guard stand screaming, and next thing you know, there's just every vehicle for LA County, it seemed, was on the beach, zooming down to help this man and help, the rest of us that were struck. And we walked over to this parking lot where the paramedics were coming in and all of that. And I said to one of the paramedics, I'm like, my friend and I were hit, and we seemed fine. We can walk, we can talk. We were disoriented. My head hurt really badly. It just felt sunburned inside and out. And we were just in shock. I said, so, what should we do? Like, what do we do? It's such a weird thing. And he looked at me like I was insane and said, you need to get checked out.
Yeah.
Like, you've just been electrocuted by a lightning bolt,
Yeah.
just like a little reality had to set in there. And
Right.
so we ended up going to Marina Del Rey Hospital for about 6 hours, actually, while they monitored our hearts. Because that's one of the biggest things they have to be concerned about is the heart stopping.
And so were you already helping people? Because now you coach people for health. And
Yeah.
do you attribute, so you were able to heal the leaky gut. What else did you say? Did you have fibromyalgia?
I had fibromyalgia as well. That happened later.
And what do you think? Now, did you clear that up?
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
this is such a big thing these days. I know so many people with thyroid problems, and these, like, women who become into their 40s and 50s seem to get thyroid, fibromyalgia, ulcerative colitis, or all these things. What do you attribute fibromyalgia to? What do you think is the cause of this?
There are a number of things, but I mean, by and large, it's the food supply and the toxic environments that we live in, the body products we're putting on our bodies, water bottles that have BPA in it, because that disrupts the hormones and creates all kinds of problems. But what I find too is that there's also mental, emotional, spiritual issues associated with fibromyalgia. And in a large percentage of the population of people who have it, mostly women, and many of us were abused as children. Often sexual abuse is a part of it. So there's some sort of trauma that keeps us in a fight or flight response, where we don't sleep well. And that's a big symptom of fibromyalgia is you're not getting enough sleep. So I help people clear those traumas. And I've been doing that for, the last 20 years or so. And then I became a private chef for celebrities, and I've been doing that for about 8 or 10 years. And I had wanted to put those two things together, and I didn't quite know how I would do that. And then after the lightning bolt, I was on disability for a month.
Okay. That gave you the time to think about everything.
Yeah, I called it the ultimate timeout from the universe. And I really felt like the big question I had to ask myself is, am I living my fullest, highest service to humanity? And when I asked that question, I was like, no. Private chefing is not enough. I've loved doing it. It's so much fun. And I've had the privilege to work with some amazing celebrities and people behind the scenes. But, I wasn't doing everything I could do. And so,
yeah, and it seems like they say no cure for fibromyalgia. They don't know what causes it. They don't know what to do. But I think probably you get them to clean out the system, right? Do a really good body cleanse, and then start eating the right foods, keeping the toxins out, and then the emotional trauma work, right? And then you can release it.
Exactly. And that's what my coaching program is designed to help them through, going through a lot of the steps that I've learned over the years, and including a process that I created myself to help release emotions from and where they're stuck in the body, what they're thinking and feeling, believing. And so.
Now, what about something as serious as ulcerative colitis? I know some people who are on the monthly or every 3 months the intravenous medication, and it's been pretty serious. Have you found a way to release that or cure that?
Yeah, that's a combination of food and also psychospiritual treatment, because that's that has to do with the personal power and relationships and finances and the inner child. All of those archetypes seem to be associated with those things. So a lot of people who have stomach issues like that are feeling disempowered in some area of their life. Just it depends on from person to person. But,
right, because also they'll say, well, that's hereditary.
Yeah, and I love that one because hereditary really is a huge conversation, because you think about how thoughts and feelings are hereditary. The way your parents thought, the way your grandparents thought, and you think about your DNA and what we're made up of. I think, honestly, I've had this conversation with a lot of scientists, is that we're made up of our thoughts and our feelings of our ancestors and our belief systems, and then the foods too that we all bond over and we tend to eat.
Right.
There's other things that come into play. So shifting those and being authentic to the self, because you have your own inner voice and own inner passions that often, like I said earlier, that I was doing a lot of things where I was trying to make my parents happy, or at least I thought it would make them happy, rather than doing what was in my own heart. And once I did that, that was a huge thing to help me get well.
Right, yes.
Huge thing.
Yeah, the diet I'm surprised that I've never had any problems. I grew up with the standard American diet, and then both parents smoking, a pack-a-day smokers in the house. So I breathed in cigarette smoke and ate, my mom cooked dinner every night. It was great, made sure we had good meals, but it was steak and white bread and milk and cookies and ding dongs, and at school we had the mac and cheese and the not
Yeah.
what we like today. We would not be eating any of that stuff. I don't
Yeah.
eat it,
Well,
but I never got sick. I mean, thank God, I was never. I managed, just the yearly flu that all the kids would get, and you'd be vomiting and stuff. But
yeah, good for you.
yeah, yeah.
Today, the diets are not better. In fact, I think they're worse in many ways because
Now, yeah.
they're not getting, a lot of these kids today are not getting any vegetable matter at all.
Right, and we didn't have the GMOs back then, and a lot of the pollutants and the toxins and all of that,
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. There's over 10,000 food chemicals.
oh, it's just
10,000.
yeah, it's really scary, and people think it's hard. Like you said, it's a family thing. It's hard to give up. Like that's a comfort food, or I can't give up my diet drink, or I can't give up this or that. And I have to have a vice. I hear that. Well, I have to have some vice, and I'm like, why? I think my vice is spending too much money on organic food. that's
Yeah,
my vice. I really love that. I mean, like for me to go to a juice bar, it's like a religious experience. I just love that. Once you do clean out the body and you get into the eating the whole good stuff, it just feels so good to do it, and then your body will reject the bad stuff.
it does. And you don't even you do what I call a palate adjustment.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Think about your palate adjusts, and then you start to realize how much more flavor there actually is in the vegetables.
Oh, yes.
Just their own, they're amazing. The tastes are incredible, and then you add spices to that, and you can make it even more spectacular than it already is. So.
Yeah, I'm vegan, and people will say, "Well, what do you eat?" Well, there's so much to eat. I mean, it's just incredible, and especially like if you want to have Thai food or Indian food or some of these other foods from other countries. There's so many options, and it's just great. Yeah, and your palate is all clear. So what do you? So you coach people? Can they tell us how we can work with you? What you can help people with, and I'll put all your links how they can connect with you.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. MegHaworth.com. It's MEGHAWORTH.com. You put a Y in there, it's fine.
It'll still come up.
It'll come up. So anyway, my two major programs are Get Well Soon, which is a 3-month program where it's very intensive. It's a lot of one-on-one time with me, where we look at your environmental factors, body products. We look at your diet. And I don't just look at it. I give you an entire plan for moving forward with foods that you already like. Maybe even converting recipes for you that are family recipes to make them healthier for you. Sometimes they can't be converted, but I'll do my best to assist you with that. And then foods that support whatever condition you might have. So we go through all of that, and I give you a plan for implementing that. Lots and lots of tips. And a book that goes with it. And then we also work on the underlying piece that is associated with your illness. So we look at the spiritual and mental, emotional, where it's located in the body. And then we come up with a plan for you of change so that you're not just left after the 3 months. You've got things that you can do moving forward. And then, some people continue on and do ongoing coaching, or just they have sessions every now and again. I have one client who's worked with me for 20 years, as needed.
Okay. And you have a Facebook group, so we can put the link, which is great support.
Yeah, it's called Get Well Soon, so you can just go on there and then ask to join.
Yeah, and I'm on there, everybody, just to offer support, because I do Reiki and crystal healing and stuff, and I'm just there in case, I don't know, just to put my vibes out to everyone. Get well.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, it helps so much. I mean, it's energy medicine is what you're doing.
I'm doing energy work, which is great. Yeah, we're all energy. So it's the food that we want, high vibrational foods that we put into our bodies, water, everything, high vibration instead of muck. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Meg, for stopping by, and it's been a pleasure. And everybody, get well soon. Contact Meg.
Thank you, Marla. I appreciate it. Mwah.